My name is Margarita Denenburg, and I'm the Associate Professor of Practice in Piano Pedagogy.
Well, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, yes. In many ways, right? So
Yes.
for people that don't know, you're a guest here, you're a professor here, but we're also married. So
Yes.
that's it's fun to do the podcast this way. But this is your first time on the podcast, and you wear many hats here at Butler. So you're a professor, so you teach piano pedagogy. You also are in charge of the piano project, which I think is very interesting that a lot of people would like to know about. And I know there's some deadlines coming up. And then you also you supervise all the graduate students who teach class piano, right?
Yes.
So it's you do a lot. So let's start out with the piano project. Talk a little bit about what the piano project is and kind of what your role is with it.
Yes, so the piano project is designed for children 6 to 12 years old, and it concentrates on establishing healthy technique from the very first piano lesson until they are 12 and they graduate from piano project and then continue somewhere else. It is a collaboration between my pedagogy students, the students that take class with me, pedagogy class, and those students, those usually graduate students, but also some undergraduate, teach in the piano project. The piano project meets every Tuesday, 5 to 7 p.m., and that's where all the magic happens. I also have a TA that helps me out. At the moment, it's Ellen Serower, and she does all of the administrative magic. She schedules the lessons, but she also teaches theory for the students in the piano project. And so piano project is a very special project.
And this is for people in the outside of Butler. So
Correct.
This is for so parents out there, if you have kids, you can basically bring them here and they'll get a weekly lesson. But on top of that, there's more than that. They get theory
Correct.
lessons, and they also get to learn from people who are often getting doctorate degrees, right?
Yep.
In piano. So you're
yeah,
it's
we're
amazing.
we're dealing with very high caliber professionals, or most of them already professional musicians, who are extraordinary pianists, and they are providing basically service to the community by teaching children from 6 to 12 years old. It's a special project in many ways. It's also not often that you will find a place so reasonable and affordable where you get that 25 minutes of private one-on-one lesson and then a group lesson, a group theory, musicianship lesson. Our teachers who are pedagogy students or students in my pedagogy class care deeply, and they're really involved. And I think one of the perks is that it's a collaboration between me and them. So on Tuesdays, that's how I make my steps, my Fitbit steps. I cruise around on the fifth and sixth floors, and I visit every single lesson that the teachers teach and assist with anything that they need.
Yeah. So assist is so this is not you step into the room and stand in the back and make a couple notes, right? You are actually engaged in the lesson. So if your kid is part of piano project, not only do you get the benefit of having often doctoral level students teaching your kids, not only do you get the benefit of theory classes, but you also get the benefit of you, right? Someone who has gone all over the world giving lectures on teaching piano, especially to kind of younger, right? That's kind of your specialty, is teaching to the, I would say, high school and younger.
Right. And I think there is a big misconception about the pedagogy of the younger generation, and that oftentimes people think that it doesn't require much skill. I mean, if you know the notes on the piano, you can pretty much teach it, right? But that's, of course, false. And a lot can go wrong. A lot can go wrong, right? The placement of the hand, the whole idea of how to do it. And so what happens is that the teachers that are in my pedagogy class could be outstanding, extraordinary musicians, but they are not knowledgeable in how exactly to teach those young children. And so when I step into the room, and that's the comments I always get from my teaching evaluation, the most useful, the most valuable moments happen during that 5 minutes when I'm in the room, because sometimes I would just move the hand slightly or say like, look, that's what we talked about in class, and everything changes. The sound is better, the posture is better. So there's a lot to learn and to know when you teach. And the younger the child is, the more important to give them that solid foundation. So later on they are capable to move forward and be proficient at piano.
Yeah, and it's so great you said that. So I want to kind of elaborate a little bit on this, because I think a lot of people, especially if you don't come from a music background, so like and that's one thing that I think a lot of people don't know, is that often classical music is like generations and families, right? So, often the person winning that, huge competition, their parents were professional musicians. It's taken several generations to get there. But for somebody with no musical background, who just has a kid who loves music, who loves playing music, right? Why is it so important? Because, everybody knows that person at their church, right? Or, down the street, and she's taught piano, as a side thing for, for 5-10 years, maybe 50 years, but maybe she doesn't have any formal training, whatever the case. Why is it so important to try to really seek out top-notch instruction for little kids, even before they know how to read music?
Yeah, so, it is such a good question, and it might take me a very long time to answer, but I'll try to.
That's why it's a podcast where you've got unlimited time. Unlimited time.
In somewhat concise.
We have like 6 hours left on the SD card there. Yeah.
Okay, so, all right. So first of all, when a child shows interest in music, the most important thing is to do everything possible to nurture that curiosity and that ability, right? So every child that is young, right, kindergarten or younger, they innately love music. I mean, I have not met a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old that would say, oh, I don't like music, right? And most of the kids, if exposed to singing, they will sing along. They love singing, they love humming. And so that's the first kind of important thing, that if you have a teacher who is not going to capture and plant the seed and nourish that curiosity, the curiosity will go away. Yes.
So like, what does it look like for a teacher to instill the love of music?
So of course, listening to music all the time, a lot, different styles, right? It does not have to be, I'm classically trained, obviously, but it does not have to be a classical music. It could be jazz, it could be folk music, it could be different instrumentations, right? I'm a huge promoter or believer in a storytelling. So music, just like a book, when you open the book and you have a story, every piece of music for the child should translate into some sort of story. So when they come to those lessons, right, the even the little melodies that we play should express something, right? Which leads me to the next thing, that when the teacher plays for the child or teaches them a new motive, tune, even like little exercises, it has to be done with such artistry. They have to play at the best of their ability. And that is something that I think is a huge misconception, right? So even my own students, sometimes they would come somewhat, unprepared, and they would play that piece. And I'm like, no, you have to play it as if you're playing it for a recording session, because children really respond just intuitively to that high artistry. So that's of course, the teacher's job, but
And it's hard.
another.
A lot of teachers, though, it's like, yeah, they're thinking about, well, how do I teach this? And they won't really think, they'll just focus on that one little thing, and it won't be like a little almost performance, right? And this is something that I think parents can look at their own teacher, like when they demonstrate something to the kid. Does it kind of take your breath away? Because it's usually pretty easy reps, so they should be able to play it really well.
Exactly.
So if like your teacher isn't playing what your kid is playing on a very high level, well,
right.
Yeah.
Right. And exactly, right? So that kind of level of professionalism is very important to have in the teacher, right? And another segue, like for the parents, what they can do is, of course, attending live music concerts. And it does not have to be an hour and a half of Mahler symphony, or something, or longer. Like, it does not have to be something so difficult, but there are enough things that's happening in the community that you can seek out. And there are even concerts special for children. So just continuing nourishing, right? And so, of course, the child has to love the teacher that they study with, especially in a very young age. So the teacher and the student should have certain chemistry. And then we get to the point of probably one of the most important points is the technique and foundation. And, I grew up in Russian school, so the technical foundation is very important. But the technical foundation is done in the name of music. So everything we play at the piano should never be mechanical or just geared towards, everything should be done with the most beautiful artistic sound, even if it's just one note. And when we talk about that with our students, young students, and treating the piano almost like it's a live organism, right? Like it's your friend, then the technique and musicianship should kind of come together. So for the parents, when they seek a teacher, which is very difficult to find that chemistry with professionalism, right? And with also affordability, because it's a very expensive, unfortunately, art form outside of UT. And coming back to Piano Project, that's why Piano Project is so great, because we do it very, very affordably. That's where the parent has to do the research and really sit at the lessons and kind of tune in and see, like, okay, is that a good fit? Like, if the student is sitting on the bench and the teacher is talking for 40 minutes and the student did not play a single note, that's probably not a good fit for a 6-year-old, right?
Yeah.
So there are some obvious things like that, but also,
or for any age, if they just talk 40 minutes.
That's true. For unless it's a philosophy or philosophical.
Yeah. No, but it's a piano lesson.
Yes.
Yeah. So
right.
that's interesting what you said though, like about how like a piano project, like the parents should sit in the room.
Yes.
Right. So in a little ways, the neat thing about Piano Project is while you're training the kids, you're also training the parents, because sometimes people will look at outside, not Piano Project, but out there, right, in the world, it's a business. And if the parents want to sit outside in the lobby on their phone, if they're happier doing that, great. The check clears.
Right.
Right. But this is more about training the kids with good behaviors and the parents with good behaviors, whether it's listening to music that's going to inspire them, whether it's, as a parent, how do you sit in a lesson? It's very difficult, right? Our youngest child plays violin, right? And there was a long period there where I was the parent sitting in on the lesson. It's hard, right? You're trying to take notes. You're trying to understand. I still don't understand the bow hold after 2 years of lessons, right? It's hard. So talk a little bit about that. Like, what should the parents be doing?
Yeah, so we have this triangle idea of a teacher, student, and parent. And I would say that the parent plays equal, if not more important role than the teacher, because we have the child one-on-one for 25 minutes. The rest of the time, the child is with the parent. And especially if the parent is not a musician, it's not an easy, there is a very steep learning curve. So what we do, we encourage all the parents to sit in the room, but specifically for any child who is 9 and younger, because I know when they're 10, they already can kind of take their responsibility and maybe even take notes, right? It's more personal, although some 10-year-olds still need a parent in the room, but definitely when you're 6, 7, and 8. So the parent's job is to sit and take very detailed notes. And I'm talking extremely detailed, like hand should go a little bit like this, right? Okay, the eyes should be on the page. In this piece, practice, those measures with beautiful sound and so on and so forth. Versus the teacher, when they make notes, it's very concise for the students to write. So what happens for the parent, not only they have to, to take correct notes and provide the environment, the practice environment, which is a whole, different can of worms, which includes an acoustic piano, an appropriate bench, a footstool, so that the feet are supported, quiet environment, a time, right? We're so busy as parents. I mean, we're parents for 2 kids, but if a family has 3 kids or 4 kids, I mean, just the time to allow a quiet space can be problematic. All of those things have to be provided outside of the lesson. But then on top of that, they are the main motivators when we are not there, right? And of course, as we know, as parents, children tend to know better than parents do. And there is a lot of resistance. And that's where the psychology comes in, and the parents have to be very intuitive and creative, and how to motivate and patient. Oh my goodness, the patience that it takes, right? Just to practice for 30 minutes. So the parents play, I would say, an incredible role in that relationship. And in fact, every piano project recital that we do, and we have a piano project recital at the end of every semester, I always thank parents. Because literally, if the parent would not be involved and is not in the room for any reason, you just forget it. It's almost very rarely there is a child that can take that kind of initiative. I would say at 6, probably never. So parents definitely, and I also teach a few students. And one of the students that I teach, he has a remarkable mom that takes very specific notes, and everything that I say is done. And so then we kind of do it in a more competitive way, and then he wins some competitions. And I always tell her that without you, he would not have won. I mean, yes, I teach well, I give them the skills, but without the parent, it's just not possible.
Yeah, so, and this is so cool about Piano Project, because this is, unless you really kind of, I don't want to say luck out, because there is a luck, right? But like get one of those really top-notch piano teachers, a lot of the stuff that you're training parents that's important, especially later on, is not going to be talked about with 95% of piano teachers. So you mentioned acoustic piano, right? You mentioned footstool in there. Mm-hmm. So let's kind of go through why some of these are important and why you require it with the piano project. So while it's very, very affordable, right? The lessons you're not going to find cheaper, especially here in Austin, than the piano project. That being said, you do have a higher demands of the parents. They have to sit in the room. They have to take notes. They have to have a footstool. They have to have acoustic piano, all for reasons. Mm-hmm. So let's start with the acoustic piano. Why not the synthesizer? I can go to Walmart. It's like $80. Right? It comes in tune. It has the little drum set thing, right? I can do. My kid loves the drum set thing. Right. So why the acoustic piano?
Yeah. So if you open the piano, you will see a lot of parts there, right? There are hammers, there are strings. And so all of that plays into a role of how we use our hands and how we depress the key on the piano. And so we talk a lot about an arm weight, right? How we should use the big muscles in the back and everything that comes with that.
So what is the arm weight?
So the arm weight, So the arm weight just sort of like a relaxed hand that goes deeply into the key, and it's a balanced hand. So we try not to cut circulation with the hand, so it doesn't look like this, for example, or like this, right? So the flow, the energy goes all the way from the shoulder, all the way from the back, actually, down to the fingertip. And so if that's what we want the students to do during the lesson, it's actually only possible on acoustic piano, because there is a certain resistance and a certain action that the piano that there is a built-in action that electronic instruments don't have. And I know somebody at this point, if they're listening to this podcast, will say, no, wait, there is, great pianos with weighted keys.
Oh, yeah, the weighted keys.
It's still not the same. I mean, now, if you're always using an acoustic piano, right, and you're 10 years old and you're going for a vacation, yes, and you will not have piano at all and you need to practice, okay. It's okay. It's a temporary solution, and that's fine. But for the most part, when you start, the child has to understand how the mechanics of the piano works. And so the only way to understand it is if you practice on an acoustic piano. And I don't know, unfortunately for the piano industry, the pianos are actually readily available on Facebook Marketplace.
And $300, you're going to get something.
Or free.
Or free, yeah.
And we had two families, I think last year, maybe, or the year before that I just found them pianos. And all they had to do is to pay for delivery. So for $150, they had a piano. And yes, you have to tune it. So of course, there's extra expenses that come with it. But what you get is a much more professional musicianship that will happen. So acoustic piano is very important. Of course, also, we can talk about the quality of the acoustic piano, because that is true that some acoustic pianos are so bad that sometimes weighted key, electric piano might be just heavier action, but for the most part, acoustic piano is the way to go when you start children on an instrument.
And this is stuff that is talked about in Piano Project with the parents.
Yes.
How to look for a piano.
Yes.
Because on Facebook Marketplace, there's all different types, and there's so many different makers.
Correct.
Right? That it's you really need that professional.
Yeah, and one of the things that we do is we have a questionnaire, and in there the parents respond if they have acoustic piano or they don't have an instrument, and then I approach them individually and say, do you need help to look for a piano? And so then we usually do emails, and I kind of look on Facebook, and together we try, to find an instrument. Now, that being said, of course, I'm not going to travel with them because I'm extremely busy, but at least I will put them in the right direction to find an appropriate instrument.
Great. And the footstool. Now, this is something like, so maybe some people have thought, well, an acoustic piano is better, or maybe they thought an electronic, and now they're kind of thinking acoustic. But I don't think very few parents will have heard about a footstool. So talk about a footstool.
Yeah, so when a child the footstool kind of goes together with the adjustable bench. So when we have...
Oh, that's right, a bench. I forgot about the bench.
Right.
Yeah.
When we have young students, obviously they're smaller, they're shorter, right? So because of that, they have to be elevated so they cannot sit too low. If they sit too low, you will start seeing tension. And that's what we're trying to avoid, is tension in their body when they play the instrument. So they will try to compensate, and so the shoulders will go up. So once the bench is elevated, their feet will not touch the ground anymore, again, because they're short. And so we need to provide support for the feet. Why support for the feet? Because when we sit down, they have to, the energy and everything has to be in the feet, right? So they are very stable on the bench. So if I wanted to ask them to stand up on the bench, on the footstool, they can easily do that, right? So of course you see a lot of everything on YouTube, starting from exceptionally good teaching to a little bit less so, and same with playing. So you see a lot of kids with dingling kind of feet, and so what happens is the balance is off, and then the hands will get tense, so there will be tension in their body. So that's why footstool, I mean, the good news is footstool in IKEA is like what, $5? So that's not, or Target. Those are very cheap to come by. When they're in the lessons here, we provide the footstools.
Yeah, and a lot of this stuff it's kind of the opposite of what you would think as a parent going through this. So like as a parent, I would think, well, a Steinway grand piano would be the best. With the I don't know, does Steinway make those benches with like the two little things?
Artist
Yeah,
bench. Yeah.
But in reality, it's like, no, upright is better for kids. Actually, the $40 kind of cheap bench is much better for kids because those artist bench don't go high enough.
Exactly.
Right. So a lot of this stuff is not what you're thinking. It's really about the knowledge. Having an expert there, and that's what Piano Project is. It's about having those experts that are going to be able to guide you to the right way. Because in America, we often think of, well, the more you pay, the better it is. And that's not the case, especially with little kids.
Yeah, and let me just make another point. That was such a great point about the grand piano versus an upright. Because, if I'm a parent and I can afford it and I want the best thing for my child, I'm going to go to a music store or a Steinway store or and they'll say, oh yeah, I have a fantastic, this is, a $50,000, or $30,000. Or sometimes you can purchase a grand piano for cheaper if it's not a Steinway. But the point is, if you think about a younger child, first of all, their hands are not as strong, not as developed, right? When you look at the handwriting of a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old, you will see it's less controlled. The music stand, when you put the music on the grand piano, it is much farther away. And you might think, okay, it's not a big deal. But actually for a child, it is. So an upright for a practice piano with decent action, by action, I mean when you press the key down, that it doesn't just fall down, right? Like there's some resistance there, right? So they learn how to depress the key. It seems much easier. And even our older daughter has been playing for a while now, and she favors the upright because the music is right there. It's closer to the keys. Everything is just less intimidating. That being said, the lessons for the most part at UT, they are on the 6th floor, and we have grand pianos there. If I could substitute everything with very good uprights, I probably would have, because I think the kids would feel more comfortable on uprights.
Yeah, I mean, and like you were talking about, the lesson's 25 minutes, right? The rest of the time is all at home. The home is what's more important. And I guess the point I'm getting to make is that this is not going to be, the parents who might not know anything about music aren't going to come here and we're going to have this attitude of like, well, a Steinway was best. You really need to, no. Like right. The Piano Project is run by a parent, right? For parents, right? This is all about teaching the next generation of teachers, and that kind of, sometimes, we have that reputation in classical music, right? It doesn't exist at the Piano Project.
No. Yeah, we are, and there is nothing that you can do wrong. And with the teachers too. And I encourage actually the teachers to teach some of the elements their own way, right? This is not a dictatorship in a way. I mean, some things are actually, because the technique is so important, but most of the things teachers get a lot of freedom. And so the first few weeks of the year, there's a very intense training. Actually, it starts with 2-day workshop before the semester even starts, because there's just so much to learn, right? Like you can't, and Piano Project starts briefly after that. So the parents, I always welcome all the questions from the parents. And in fact, this year, Ellen and I will... One of the TAs, yep, who is wonderful. We had this idea of having a session for the parents where they are in the room and we talk about some of those things that we're talking about right now, like what should the piano be, the bench, the footstool, the environment in general, right? Because environment is also important. Like if there's a sibling watching TV or on the iPad,
Yeah.
it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
Or if there are like 4 dogs in the house, right? And they're like all barking. Unfortunately, we've seen a lot of that in the COVID era, right? During
Yeah.
Zoom lessons, it was very revealing, the environments of our children that study music.
Yeah. So you were talking earlier about, you're like, it's not a dictatorship with the teachers, but on some things it is.
Yes.
And some things with your teachers, you're very strict on. And from my just being married to you and I see you watch these videos of the teachers teaching. It's because mostly you don't want the kids to get hurt, right?
Absolutely.
And if the kids learn the wrong way to do things, they can get hurt. And that's one thing that if you just go to the local person down the street, they probably don't know this.
Right.
And you have a lot of people that, while they're not going to get hurt when they're 6 or 7 or 8, if they start to get serious, the chances of getting hurt when they're 16 skyrocket.
Absolutely. And that's what one of the projects that I did was a research project a few years ago, is connecting those first years of pedagogy of piano lessons to when they start college in their freshman year. Because previously when I taught at Heidelberg University, all of the students that came to me suffered from some discomfort or injury, a hand injury. And so what happens when you're 6, our body is very flexible for the most part, right? Of course, we have gadgets now that we have much more tension in hands than we used to. But for the most part, the kids are very flexible and they are growing. And so, yeah, if the technique is not right at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and they're practicing 20, 25 minutes a day, chances that nothing bad will happen to them physically. But if the child at 10 decides, no, I love it so much, I want to do it competitively, even at 8 and 9 actually, right? And they start practicing 2 hours. And then at 16, they start practicing 3 hours. And then they get to a freshman year in college. And, the competitive environment pushes them to practice 4 to 6 hours, sometimes, 8, right? I've been there too. If they don't use their hands properly, they will get hurt. And in fact, we both know I had a student at Heidelberg that couldn't even brush his teeth without
very severe, yeah.
Without pain, like he couldn't hold a suitcase, right? Because our bodies, we need to know how to use those muscles and bones and everything, right? And balance. So if we don't start correctly at 6, 7, they develop bad habits. And those are very difficult to fix later on. Because imagine if you do it for years and years and years and you're practicing incorrectly, it's hard, right? Your brain is wired a certain way. And it's possible, but very, very difficult to do. And unfortunately, we only recognize it once we have pain, right? That's just humanity, right? We run around constantly and we are fine. And let's say we don't drink enough water. And all of a sudden we feel dizzy and we faint. Okay,
Yeah.
well, it's because I didn't drink enough water, right? So kind of same here. You play. And there's also another point in there in athletics when we run and our muscles hurt, for example. That's okay, great, I had a good workout. In piano, that is not the case at all. If something hurts or feels uncomfortable, you must stop immediately and evaluate why that hurts, right? You should not push through, right? And so that is a problem, because by the time that individual decides to, I should do something about my technique, it's borderline too late.
Yeah. And it's interesting you bring up the athletics thing because, in this country with athletics, right, we put a lot of importance. All countries put a lot of importance on athletics. But you can imagine if you have a 16 or 17-year-old kid who is really serious about athletics, they want to be a professional athlete. Think about the number of coaches they will have encountered that will be talking just about technique, just how to throw the ball, just how to warm up, just how to do all of that. And In this country, we don't do that. It's very possible that if your kid is 16 and they want to become a professional musician, they might have only had one teacher their whole time. They don't have that team, which I want you to talk a little bit about when you watch like a piano competition, like you watch like Van Cliburn here in Texas, right? So we're in America, right? We're in Texas, right? But yet the people performing competing at the highest level often aren't Americans, right?
Yes.
And it's just a different structure, and it's just important. And I'm not trying to put down this country. We have a lot of great things, but this is something that you're kind of, as a parent, a little bit at a disadvantage about, and it's good to know. Right?
Correct. Yeah, and what happens here as opposed to what happens with athletics, like even if you take elementary school, right? Or let's say, when they have let's say swim team, right? I don't know all the insides and outsides of that, but I know that they meet many times a week and they have those meets that go for hours. I mean, the amount of hours that is put into that swim meet or soccer or anything or baseball, right? I mean, it is remarkable, right? And parents follow through, and that's just what
they're strict with their parents about what they have to do, what's expected.
Exactly.
Yep.
Right. And if you don't show up, you're out. Right. Yeah. And with music, unfortunately, we have more lenience, and we are not as dedicated as society, right, to that art. So a lot of parents say like, oh, well, let's just try it and see if my kid likes it. Not understanding your kid will like it, but you have to invest a lot of time into that, right? You have to invest time into the practice routine, into the environment. You have to create opportunities for your children, right? Like this summer, for example, at the Butler School, in 2 weeks, we have the chamber music camp that is so fabulous. Both of our girls are in there.
It's all sold out this year, but
yes.
In the future years, it's one of the, if you have kids, it is one of the highlights of Austin.
Truly, just the team is just magnificent.
And it is a team.
Yeah.
And you start to get a little bit of that, yeah.
Exactly. And so as a parent, it's more difficult because if you are not in that sphere, it's hard to find those opportunities because you don't know what to look for. As opposed when you go to athletics and like, okay, this is what we're going to do, A, B, C, and D, right? And for several years now, I'm entertaining the idea of moving piano project to twice a week, right? And I know there will be a lot of resistance. But when I think about it's just twice a week versus athletics, do it every day.
Athletics, try to find an athletic team that only does twice a week.
Yes.
Yeah. So just in contrast, like talk about your growing up, because I think everybody knows Russia has a very good tradition with classical music.
Yes.
Also China, also Korea, right? There's several of these kind of hot spots that really produce amazing musicians. So what does it look like at that young age, like what you went through?
Yeah, it's very interesting because the whole music education begins before your first piano lesson. We think like, okay, let's get piano lesson, but it actually starts way before. So in the kindergarten and preschool, there are music classes, actual trained teacher by the government. That's how it used to be in Soviet Union. That would go, there is an acoustic piano, and would do a class with the children, singing, dancing, Del Cross, which is movement with music, all kind of musical activities, right? So your education starts way before that first encounter. So all the Soviet music ages started 6 or 7. I wasn't 6, I think I was 5. First of all, what was very interesting, they look at the physics of a child, like at the hand shape, how the hand is, formed, because we're not all have the same hands, right? Size, the cushions, the length of fingers, all of those things play a role. They test their ear, their singing. For example, children that have perfect pitch, they would be probably sent to study string instrument. So all of those little things played a huge role. And then once you were admitted to the program, which I was not in a competitive setting in sense of it wasn't Moscow prep, right? Like and Moscow Prep equivalent to Juilliard Prep, which
You were
is
in
very
like a
intense.
smaller town in
Yeah, I
in
was in
Russia.
a very small town,
Yeah.
right, in a local music school. My teacher was remarkable, who is right now actually in Los Angeles, Larisa Bogdanova. And my mom was also a pianist, of course, so she also kind of supervised the practicing at first. And so the whole schedule was like this. It was twice a week, 45 minutes. It was either Monday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Friday, I think. Mine was always Monday, Thursday. And in between, you had theory, solfege, choir, mandatory choir. By the way, choir was also in schools always. And then I also had composition lessons. So you're basically there every single day. So whether or not you like music, you're going to like music. And so
But this is people who opted in.
Yes.
Right? So
right.
the same would be true if you played hockey.
Exactly.
In a different, yeah.
Exactly. But it was a local music school, and you could trust that local music school will provide very high quality product. So because of that, the children progressed very quickly. And so you find interest in it, right? So like in 6 months of those kind of intense learning, you're already playing significantly well, especially if you have some talent. There was also examinations. At the end of the year, you had to pass exam. Like I remember in the end of the second year, I had to play all of the scales, right? With flashcards, you just pick a scale and you played it. So that's a very different, and if you didn't pass that, you would have to repeat the grade again. So a very different upbringing, but it is a much more, and because of that, there was less pressure on parents.
Yeah.
Because if your child is every single day in that environment, right? If they don't practice on Saturday and Sunday, it's okay. They have a lesson on Monday, they will pick it back up. And then they have another, solfege on Tuesday. And this, you almost practice in school, basically. So, yeah.
Which is why they did it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So as a parent in this country, it's good to know that you are having to kind of make up for all of that, because we just don't have that infrastructure here to do that. But it's possible, right? But it's good to reach out and try to connect with people like you, with groups like the Piano Project, right? So so very, very cool. So how would parents get involved?
Yeah, so we have application process. So one thing that is a disadvantage of the Piano Project, we have very limited spots.
Yeah.
And we are forced to
because
always...
you put so much time into it.
Right. And because I cannot, I feel personally responsible for every child we accept. I know every child. I know exactly what they play, what methods we're like. I'm very closely. It's almost like I teach them. I don't.
Some of them come over to our house for dinner, and
yes. So we know them very well. We have an application process. The application for the new students is due August 15th. So that's when you fill out the form. It's online. You can just Google UT Austin Piano Project.
We'll put it in the link below.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And then we will have auditions August 27th. And this is, parents always ask, okay, this is a scary word.
Audition is scary. If you have a 5-year-old,
yes.
That's a very scary word.
Are they going to hide behind the piano? What are they going to do? So in case you couldn't tell, I'm pretty good with kids. And it is not always by ability. So the spots are not always given to the best player. In fact, in previous years, we had fantastic students with auditions, but they would not quite fit in the program. What does that mean? We have 4 theory sections, level 1, 2, 3, 4. And so we'll have spots in those theory classes. So we cannot just take, let's say I have 10 spots. We can't just take all 6-year-olds, right? There has to be a balance between those classes. And so when you come to the audition, the way it looks, I usually have a quick conversation with the child. I ask them to do certain things. It's usually a lot of fun. If they have previously if they previously played the piano, I ask them to play for us something. It is a very low pressure, audition. It is not. It's just the word is scary, but that's all it is. And usually kids actually enjoy it. I wish I had more than 5 minutes. I think 2 years ago we had like insane amount of like 60 applications, which is a lot, especially when you have like 8 spots or something like that. This year we expect to have a little bit more spots because we had several students that graduated from the piano project. So we're super excited to hopefully welcome new students.
Yeah. So what if they audition and don't get in, but they want to take piano very seriously? What suggestions would you have for them?
Yes, that's a great question. So we have few people that we put on a waiting list. And oftentimes people actually change their minds. So don't get discouraged. Sometimes we say, no, we don't have a spot. And then they're like, yes, please come. We would love to have you as a student. Again, it's not all merit, based. Like it's not all by their audition. So what would I recommend? You have to get in touch with several different teachers around Austin area and ask questions. So first of all, ask to meet with them. Most teachers offer free trial lessons, and just go and get to know them. Some teachers, maybe it would be possible to sit in their lessons. If that's possible, that would be the best way to do that. Just ask the teacher, would you mind if I sat in some of your lessons? That would be very important to me. And things to look for in a teacher. Do they care? What is the balance between them talking versus letting the child play? Of course, when the child is a complete beginner, there will be some amount of talking, right? Because you have to explain. But if you're observing those lessons, this is what I always look for. How is the energy of the teacher, right? Is their voice always just very monotonous and they're like, okay, let's go. Those things matter. Are they enthusiastic? How do they play? Do they have a beautiful sound? Do they play for their students, right? And of course, where did they study? That also plays a role, even though that's less of a role because you could go to Juilliard and not know a single thing about how to teach a 6-year-old. That's actually the biggest probably disconnect that parents don't know. So all of those things are important. And probably the most important advice, don't settle. If your intuition tells you, oh, I don't think something is right, probably something is not right? We always doubt ourselves as parents because we want the best for our kids. We go through that all the time too, right? But if something doesn't feel natural, or if your child doesn't seem progressing, that's very important. The child has to progress. For them to remain enthusiastic, they have to be able to move forward. So don't afraid to switch teachers. It takes time, probably 2 to 3 months to see if that's a good fit or not a good fit. Don't make a conclusion after one lesson. But yeah, I would definitely reach out to several teachers in the area and just have conversations with them. Be very honest, upfront. What you want, what is your goal for your child, right? And that's the way to go.
Yeah, no. So let's switch over to the Butler side of things. So like we've talked a lot about why parents might find this program, really valuable. What about to a Butler student who maybe plays piano, who's thinking about taking piano pedagogy to class? And it's like, oh, that sounds like, a lot of work. I got to come on Tuesday nights. I've got to teach kids. Why is it important to learn how to become a great teacher?
Oh, that's such an excellent question. So I haven't met too many students that graduated with a music degree who are not teaching. I would say all of the graduates, master's degree, undergraduate degree, doctorate degree especially, right? They all teach in some form. And most of them teach that younger generation, young children. So knowing how to teach is probably one of the most important elements that you take from this degree.
And even if you're a Trifonov or Yuzhou Wang, you're still going to do master classes.
Exactly.
Right? You're still going to have to
Yes.
teach in some...
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And so it's a very important class. And honestly, it teaches you a lot about your own technique too. Because I have pedagogy students who approached me and just like, okay, now I understand what I've been doing wrong. Why does it not sound good? Why do I have tension? I get it now. So there's a lot packed in that class. So the first semester usually deals with...
It's a 2-semester class, right?
Yes.
So it's fall, and this is really important because the parents need to have that consistency, right?
Yes.
So you don't want you to have one teacher for 4 months and then another teacher for another, right? It's important for the kids to have the same teacher for the whole year.
Right. So I really try to accommodate that. And for the most part, I succeed. Once in a while, I will have a teacher who just, I can't do this. This is too much. Usually, they're probably right. Yes. Because it's very important for me to have a good fit for the program also. So I don't want to fire anyone, but if I need to, I will, right? So it's pretty strict, again, because I feel very responsible for those children and parents, families. So yeah, it's a 2-semester class. The first class is really focused on that first 2 years of piano lessons. And honestly, I always run out of time. Some of my colleagues are like, well, what can you teach? 1 year and you spend an entire semester, and there's always so much to teach. I just never have enough time. So I always steal a little bit from the second semester. The second semester focuses on more business and more academic skills, such as, building a website, building your own studio, teaching philosophy, which is very important. Even if you are not going to be applying for academic job at the end of your DMA, you think about your teaching. It makes you a better teacher. So skills like that are developed in the second semester. And still, of course, we have the Tuesday, we continue teaching. So there would be always like 10 minutes that I steal from the Wednesday class. I'm like, okay, let's watch this video of this particular, child. Why do you think that did not work? Right? And once in a while, you see, it's just so exciting when the teacher will be like, oh my gosh, why did I not think about it earlier?
Yeah.
Now I get it. So yeah.
Yeah, and what's interesting about being a piano teacher, just privately, is the ranges of how much you can make, right? Yes. And it's interesting how in the same city, same everything, someone will charge $40 and someone else will charge $150. And we're talking about even for little kids, right?
Yes.
And usually the person that charges $150 will have a waiting list.
Yes.
Right. And the person that charges so it really, it's also a career thing. And so why do you think that is? How do some people charge so much, and why is that? Why do parents like us flock to those teachers?
Yeah, progress, right? So, you want your child to play. I'll never forget, you probably don't remember that, but after 1 year that our older daughter played a piano, you brought some Christmas music home and you said like, well, can she play that? I'm like, no, this is so difficult. What are you talking about, right?
Yeah.
We're only
I'm
now...
not a musician, so yeah.
Right,
yeah,
I know,
yeah.
but like for a parent perspective, right?
Yeah.
Like, so progress is very, very important. And so for the teachers to show that progress, right, is important. So of course there's a competitive element in that, because there is that Music Teacher Association, Austin District Music Teacher Association, where we have a lot of different events, festivals, and in fact, in Piano Project...
And everywhere in the country has that, not just in Austin.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's a national organization where we have festivals, competitions, and so the teachers who tend to have the waiting list and to, earn more, I don't know if 150, but maybe 120, dollars an hour, those are the teachers whose students always perform somewhere. right? You see them all the time. Their name will be always there.
In the winners.
In the winners,
Yeah.
or even in participants, right? Like, so I judge oftentimes contests like that, and I'm like, oh yeah, I recognize this is this teacher. So you start, a picture starts to form. So there'll be like 5 teachers that I can put on my hand. Like, okay, those are probably, some of the teachers that have the strongest studios. And what happens then, those teachers can be much more demanding of the parents, right? Like, they can say stuff like, okay, if you want to be in my studio, I don't want your child to do 3 sports on top of that, right? Because I know that if they are enrolled in a lot of extracurricular activities, they're not going to be practicing, right? They can demand, I want my students to practice, I don't know, an hour and a half a day, right? So how for a new teacher to get there, right, is to participate. First of all, to get membership in MTNA.
And there might be Butler students who don't even know what MTNA is. And this is a really important thing, especially from the parent perspective, people with kids in it, right? This is a real resource.
Right. And once you join, and that's one of the requirements for the pedagogy class, we all get a membership there. It's just done. And in fact, when the parent looks for a teacher, on MTNA website, you can search for teachers that are enrolled or involved with that organization, which gives you some sense of what to expect, right? So there's a theory test, stuff like that.
And you also compete against other kids.
Yes.
Right? I mean, it's one thing if like your teacher has a twice a year recital at the church, and they only play with other people that they teach, right? It's a whole different animal when you go and you play with other teachers' kids.
Exactly.
Right. And to see where your kid stacks up.
Exactly. Right. So I guess the first step would be get a membership, get involved with MTNA. MTNA is a national organization. Austin District Music Teacher is the local chapter from the Texas Music Teacher Association. And then just look at their events.
But you go through all this in their class.
Yes.
Yeah. So this
Yeah. So that's
so just
basically
sign up
how.
for the class.
Yeah, just sign up for the class. Exactly. And you will know everything you need to know about the business side of it also.
Yeah, you'll come out a year later with a real marketable skill that you'll probably use for the rest of your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we also have, one thing that I have to mention that connected to the pedagogy class, but sort of independent, is the student chapter music teacher that actually Ellen Serower, she's going to be the president. The past president was Jean Jorez, right? And so now the leadership is very strong there. So get involved in that.
And then we had her on the podcast, and this is one of the things she attributes to getting an academic job. So, even if you want to become a professor of piano, getting involved with these types of things, really important. You can go watch that episode. She talks for like 20 minutes about it. But so take the class. If you're a parent, apply to join the piano project, right?
Yes.
And thank you so much for sitting down and talking with us.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. All right. I'll see you tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.